And look, I'm new to this challenge. I've only been looking at it for 4, 5, 6 weeks. But you know what? Beginning to look at it at a more forensic level, what I'm seeing is the worst form of predatory capitalism undermining working class jobs that are a century old or more in London. And let me just if you can give me 5 minutes to describe what I've discovered, this will be, I'm sure some of you know it, but I want to make sure I'm on the right lines here. Firstly, it is not normal for chief executives of companies to be arrested, but that's what happened when the French authorities arrested the French chief executive of Uber. It is not normal for cities like New York to condemn a company for not adhering to their obligations to disabled passengers. It is not normal for companies to be exposed by investigative journalism for threatening to hire private investigators to follow journalists who write bad stories about them. But this is what has happened to Uber. I happen to have some experience of being followed by private investigators who work for powerful vested interests, and it winds me up when I see other people being threatened in that way. So this is not a good company. And what is their intention? What they are trying to do is persuade consumers that they are a technology platform, and all that they want to do is make it easier for people to book transport. But the effect of the technology platform that they have is to reach their intent, which is to have a monopoly supply in London. And they're going to do it by flooding the market to start with, and that's already having the effect of driving down revenues, making sure that the Uber drivers themselves are being paid probably less than they need to pay the bills at the end of the month, to drive experienced drivers out of the market so that they've then got the monopoly. And actually, I think the argument to make with consumers is, you might think you're getting a good deal now, but when they take control of this market and dominate it, the prices are only going to go one way, and that's up. And good drivers who know what they're doing, who keep their passengers safe, who spend a lot of time learning where A to B is rather than driving the wrong way down one-way streets, are not going to exist in this city. And one of the great things about this city is we are known globally that if you get off at an airport, you'll always be dropped at the hotel that you need to go to, rather than be driven 50 miles around the M25 in the wrong direction. So I think there's a political case that could be made beyond the issue of regulation, and I think we need to start finding the language for that. However, the other thing I think we need to look at is where their business model fails. And where I think their business model fails is they devolve risk to the individual driver of the vehicle and the individual passenger in the vehicle. And I think we need to make the argument to regulators that do you actually want a market that operates in that way? The one great advantage of having a collective body of drivers is you drive up your own standards. You know what it's like to keep a passenger safe. You know what you have to pay to have good insurance if things go wrong, and they do go wrong from time to time. Not as often as they do, because you're experienced drivers, well trained, and know what you're doing. But do we really want that kind of market for private hire for vehicles in London? I think not. So since I've been looking at this, I've been tabling a number of parliamentary questions to government departments to find out what reach the Uber lobbyists have into government. Because the one thing I tell you is, if you're running effectively a company that wants to get rid of London taxis, why would you hire the best friend of the Prime Minister to do your corporate communications unless you want to influence them? There's something not right about that. Yeah. And it requires meticulous, forensic, thorough, detailed cross-examination of ministers through use of the Freedom of Information Act, which, by the way, in the last month, the government have said they want to weaken, and through parliamentary questions. And I've started to do that. Now, I'm afraid the process is rather cumbersome and slow, and it doesn't get instant results. But just rest assured that those questions are going in, and we're waiting for the responses. And since I had the meeting about a month ago, I've also written to the new chairs of 2 parliamentary select committees, the chairs of the Transport Select Committee and the Business Committee, DBiz, because I think they should look at the overall running of the market from a parliamentary angle. And why is that important? It's important for me because the one thing I know from the hacking inquiry is these committees have a power that no one else has, the power to seize or oblige organisations to provide all documentation and to compel witnesses to attend hearings. I would like the best friend of the Prime Minister to be scrutinised in Parliament, and I would like to know what email trails exist between Uber and government and Uber and TfL. I know a lot of drivers. I've never known so many. I didn't know there were so many black cab drivers on Twitter, but thank you for letting me know your views in the last 6 weeks. I think the only way that we can get we can understand what the future looks like is trying to reveal some of the private conversations that have quite clearly been going on at this. I mean, Val, we've yet to talk, but Val's been forensically trying to interrogate the regulator, but the power behind this story is beyond the regulator. I'm sure there are forces at play that we don't yet know about, and I'm really here tonight just to say I'm going to continue with that meticulous forensic day-to-day questioning. Parliament unfortunately rises tonight, but over the summer I'll keep firing questions in, and in a couple of months' time we'll hopefully start to yield some results, and I'll just keep the group filled in as and when that information reveals itself to us.